Welcome back to the studio. I'm Eric Jackson. I know I've been away for about 3 weeks, but I've been getting a lot of work done. So I'm going to begin to share with you guys in the coming weeks what I've been doing for the past 3 weeks, how much progress I've made, which I've made a lot of progress, but I needed to really put everything aside in terms of podcasts and my marketing in order to get some behind the scenes things done. So today I'm going to talk about how to price your artwork using a percentage or using percentages. But I stumbled upon an Excel formula, Microsoft Excel formula that I'm using now to keep my inventory more organized and keep the pricing up to date. So I put in the percentage behind the scenes on the website, and then obviously the clients and buyers, they see the actual price when they come onto the website and want to purchase something. I had to redo the pricing structure. I didn't use a percentage formula before, but then when I checked my pricing probably like a month ago, I realized that the pricing on a lot of the material had spiked. And so a lot of my profit margins were in the red or below where they should have been. So I had to create a way where if the prices of the material, pricing of the material goes up, then I'll keep a certain percentage of that as my profit margin. And it just makes it more consistent across the board. And if prices do spike on material without me knowing it, the percentage will just adjust on its own. At least that's how I'm thinking it's going to go. And so what I'm going to do is next quarter, I'm going to go back behind the scenes, check all the pricing of the material to make sure that if the pricing has gone up on material like the paper or other types of material, then my percentage will stay the same, But yeah, I'm going to go through that. So let me change screens here. I'm going to go to ASUS. All right, so I've got a template for you guys, and I'll just lay out how this works. This is the base price here in column B. So all this is the base price of what the product actually costs to make. For right now, I'm just thinking about whether it's the print paper, sometimes it's different materials that come with it. If it's a frame, sometimes it's the frame that comes with that. I'm not charging for the extra material like the matting and the framing and all that. I'm just charging for the base cost of the product. So if clients come in and they want to add matting or want to add a different type of frame, they'll just pay the base price of that. I'm not going to charge an extra commission or a fee on top of that. But I'm just, like I said, I'm just worried about or concerned about the base price of the product that I have to cover, right? None of the extra customization stuff. When clients want to have that or order or add that to their order, again, they just pay the base price of that. I'm not adding any profit margin onto those things. So, for example, for me, my photography prints, they're based on formatting or ratios, right? So here in column A, I have the 3:2 ratio here. So that's going to be a 12 by 8 inch or an 8 by 12 inch. It's the same ratio. Then here I also have the 1:1, which is a square. So anything that's 8 by 8 inch or larger, that's another ratio. And then the last ratio here is the 3:1 ratio, which is a panoramic that I have on the website. So I'm starting with the smallest print available in terms of percentage, right? So I did change my numbers because I didn't want to share my actual how I price everything literally, but I have some prices in here, for example, for you guys to use as a template, and then you guys can plug in whatever you want your profit margin to be. The formula is still going to work the same, so you can change all of these numbers, right? So first we're going to start on the first line, right? So let's say you have a tier 1, like the best of the best, your high-end prints, and I tier all of my work, or I have all my work in tiers. Like tier 1 is my very best, my favorite portfolio prints, and then the tiers go down, like to this one, for example, is tier 6. So for tier 6, my profit margin, I'm only going to make $10 above the base price for that particular piece. Compared to tier 1, I want to make $400, for example, on that particular tier. So the size is an 8 by 12. So yeah, start there. If you're just starting out, especially, and you're trying to get like a starting point, start with an 8 by 12 and pick your best 10 to 12 pieces, right? And then ask yourself, how much do you want to make from that particular piece? Now, obviously, a lot of times it's not going to be $400. I don't charge $400 on mine, but I'm throwing numbers out. How much do you want to make from that piece? Like your best 10 to 12 prints or photographs. Or it can be, acrylic painting. It can be anything. Like pick your 10 to 12 best. How much do you want to make on that if you sell an 8 by 12 inch of it, right? So you put that number there as your tier 1. And then it just continues to go down. Pick a few that's tier 2, tier 3, and so on. And continue to ask yourself, how much do you want to make on this 8 by 12? That's a tier 4, tier 5, tier 6, right? And of course, tier 6 are the photographs that are, well, for me, they're really old. They're probably over 15 years old. With mine, it's like I captured them back in 2009, 2010. Like they're really old photographs, but some people still like them. But I'm not going to charge a premium fee on that for those, or my profit margin is not going to be that high because they're dated, So buyers who are looking for something at a much lower price point, they'll go to things or to prints that are at tier 6. So before I go forward, I'm going to also add, I added these as a keyword on the website. So you go to the photograph. Can I bring this up right now? Hold on. I'm going to try to bring this up for you guys, because it's better that I actually show you what I'm talking about. But yes, I added, let me move this because my screens are jumping all over the place. But I added this on the website. Okay. So let's go back to ACES on 3. Okay, there we go. All right. So for example, let's go with clarity. And I'll go nucleus, right? So within the keywords, you see price tier 3 right here. And I try to expand it. But you click on that, and all of my work that's in the tier 3 at the tier 3 price point is going to show up on the website. So I added this while I was away. And then I also added a description here with, here are the dimensions in inches and centimeters, and then here's the price range for featured product, photo print on Fuji crystal. So this just gives buyers an idea of the price range of a particular thing, and it all connects to the tier. So for the featured product, anything that's the Fuji crystal print only, is not framed or anything, it's going to be in this price range. So let me back up again. If I click that price tier 3, like I said, everything that's in that price range is going to show up. So if a buyer comes to a work of art and it's in their price range, but they're not crazy about the print that they're looking at, they can say, okay, show me everything in this price range and let me see if I like something else better, right? And so that's why I added this on there. And I've been looking at my analytics and people are already using it. And it's only been up for about a week and a half. I included that like a week and a half ago. But I had to go through and make sure that everything's in the correct tier, And again, as I add new work or some pieces that are in the archives, they're all going to have the price tier keyword included. So I feel like that's going to be really helpful. All right, so yeah, that's what I wanted to show you guys. So that's how the tiers work. So again, I started with an 8x12 in that particular tier, in tier 3, and I asked myself, how much do I want this to be? Or how much do I want to make from this, right? And so let's say that for tier 3, I want to make $100 from tier 3, right? You would have to add $100 onto the base price of the product. So in this case, for an 8x12, the base price is $38.95, right? So I needed a faster way to calculate, okay, what's the price going to be exactly? And then turn that into a percentage. Because when I come to the website, I'm going to have to come to the website and say, okay, for this particular print product, I need the profit margin to be this particular percentage. And so then I thought, well, how am I going to know what the percentage is? Right? How am I going to know what the percentage is? So I went to ChatGPT, oddly enough, and I started asking a bunch of questions because I couldn't find exactly what I was looking for on YouTube. And so I told the AI, the artificial intelligence, this is what I'm trying to do. And then it started kicking out all these Excel formulas. And I had to try it a few times before I got to what I was looking for and understood, okay, this is what I want. And so that's what I'm going to share with you guys. So yeah, shout out to ChatGPT. I wouldn't suggest asking it any type of questions because some questions it's not going to be helpful. But this particular thing, it worked out for me. So tier 3, I want to make $100 for profit margin, right? The base price is $38. Okay. I'm looking for what percentage exactly. How do I get the percentage of that to put onto the website in the background, right? So how do I get to basically $140 for this particular tier? So that's when I went to this number underneath, right? And up here in the corner, let's see if I can expand this for you guys. I don't think I can. But you will see it says equals 100, and then there's a slash sign, and then it says B4, right? So that's what you do, okay? You put in the formula. So let me just go ahead and delete it. So you put in the formula. You said, well, you can either go FX, but I'm just gonna say equals. Put an equal sign, and then you put the number of your whatever your profit margin is. So in this case, $100, and then you put the slash sign, which is divided, and then you put the base price. In this case, is going to be B4. That's where it is, and you press enter. And it's going to give you 2.56739, all that type stuff, right? What does that mean? That's a decimal point version of the percentage you're looking for, right? Which means that you're going to have to take the decimal point version and convert it into the percentage. And how do you do that? You look at the numbers. Right. So 2.56 is basically 256%. Right. Now, if you want to get to $138.95, you have to plug in that number. Right. You have to plug in that number. So up here, you will see that I have 257%, right? So you're going to have to round this up all the time. Like all the time, you're going to have to round it up. Because if you go to your website, you put in 256%, you're going to be slightly below the number you're trying to target, right? So see all these numbers back here behind the 5.56. That means that 256% is not going to be high enough to meet your profit margin that you want for the price to be correct. So you're going to have to round it up to the next number, which in this case is going to be 257%. So again, you're just looking at, I don't think I can double click this. No, I can't. You're just looking at the first three numbers, right? And that's your percentage, and you're rounding it up based on the number right next to the third number. So if that fourth number, well, if you do have a fourth number, you're always going to have a fourth number. All this right here just tells you to round it up a number. So you round it up to the next number, whatever that percentage is, and that's going to be what you put into the website. So if you're on a website like Society 6, and you're implementing this, you're putting in the base price because they have a base price. And then you're going off of what you want your price to be, which in this case is $100. And that's what you're going to put in. So again, it's going to be equals whatever your profit is that you want it to be, divided by the base price. Okay, and then just select enter or hit enter, and that's going to give you your number. Okay, that's all it is. And you're just going to do that over and over and over again, right? You can copy paste the formula to the next rows because you're just going to be using the same formula over and over again. The thing that's going to change is what you want for profit for that particular tier and the base price, but the formula is still the same. So for example, let's start from scratch on this one. Okay. For the tier 1. And I know that you guys probably didn't want a math lesson, but I'm just saying, to save you a lot of headache, just go with it, right? Just you'll get used to it, because I was like struggling with it at first. Math is not my strongest suit, but then once I got it, what was going on, I was like, okay. So again, here's your base price at $38.95. Okay. This is your profit that you want. You want to make $400. So even if your base price jumps up like to $45, you still want to make $400 on it, right? Of course, the total cost is going to go up, but your percentage on your profit is going to stay the same, okay? So I'm going to go through all of this and show you what I mean, right? So we'll just start on tier 1. Okay, so leave this part empty. You come to the next one, and again, equals, and then you just say, what do I want to make on an 8x12, 8x12 inch tier 1? I want to make $400. Okay. Then divided, that's a slash sign symbol on the keyboard. And then you click on the base price. So you click that, which is at B4 on this particular spreadsheet, and press enter. That gives you 10.269, blah, 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 right? What is that as a percentage? As a percentage, just type the numbers out. 1, 0, 2. But since you have all those extra numbers, just round it up to 103. And that's it. That's literally all you do all the time, right? So again, let's go to a different price. And let me freeze. Let me see if I can freeze this so it's not jumping around so much. Go to view, freeze column. Oh, here we go. Freeze pane. All right, there we go. So it's not jumping around so much. I use a lot of Excel at work, like on my day job. So I'm implementing all this stuff on my business. On my small business. So anyway, so now 103%. Okay, so let's go to a higher price. Same thing. I want my profit to be $400. Okay, so this, get rid of it. This one, get rid of it. I want the profit still to stay at $400, even though this is a higher priced product, or the price goes up, whatever. It's the same formula. So you'll equals, I want to make $400 divided by, or slash symbol, and then click on the base price, which is on B8 at this point, and just click enter. So what do you have? 2.38. And again, 238. That's basically what it's telling you. And since you have all those numbers back there, you're just going to round it up to tier, or to the next number up, which is 9. So instead of 238, a bunch of numbers, it's going to be 239. And that's it. So when you go to the website and they ask you, okay, what is your profit margin in terms of percentage? You're going to put in 239%, 239%. And that's going to ensure that this $400 is going to add in the $197.95 or whatever the base price is. And that's going to equal whatever it is. So basically, it's going to be about $570 when you add these two together. That's what the buyer is going to see, right? That's what the buyer is going to see. So you're just determining, how much do I want to add on top of the base price as my profit margin, as profit, right? If you want to add a little bit on top of the base price to make it cheaper, you can do that. If the piece is more expensive, again, your profit margin can be a lot higher. But my work is not in the same tier. I have over 200 photographs. Like, they're all in different tiers. How many tiers do I have? At least 10 at this point. At least 10. But anyway, so again, we're going to go to the next one. Start from scratch on these, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Now we are on the 8x8s. The base price is going to be a little bit different. For as far as like all of the products, right, it's going to be a little bit different. But yeah, I'm just going by formatting. So I have a 3:2 format, a 1:1 format, which is squared. And then, like I said, the 3:1 format, which is the panoramic. I just got the smallest size for each format and made a decision of, on each tier, how much do I want to make from that particular small size. And then everything else is it's like a domino effect. It's going to affect everything else. So on some products, the smaller prints are going to be more expensive, and then as the size grows or gets bigger, the price is going to come down. And then some products is going to be the opposite. The smaller dimensions or smaller sizes of the print are going to be cheaper, and then as the size goes up, the material gets more expensive, especially on the face mounted acrylic prints. Like, as the size goes up, it's going to be more expensive, but you only have to put in the percentage one time, and it's going to cover everything else. And I'll show you guys that too. If I can come up with a template for the price margin on my end, I can probably do that. But I'm going to set it up first before I show you guys. So again, this is a 8x8. This is their base price. You want to make $400 in this example. So again, equals $400 divided by, here's the base price, enter. Hold on, I put it in the wrong one, sorry. That was my fault. Okay, here we go. Equals 400 divided by base. There we go. So this again is 4.00, and then there's 2, and then there's 1. So that means that you're still going to have to round it up 1. So instead of 400, you would put 401. So when you go to the website and you want to figure out, okay, for this particular profit margin, I'm going to need 401%. So basically what I've done down here, and you guys see all these little tabs, these are all of my products. I have all the prices down there. I have on every tier, all 10 tiers. This is what I want as profit. And for the 3:2 format, the 1:1 format, and the panoramic format, I have the smallest size there. And it's basically laid out just like I'm showing you guys. And then I have to go to my website and plug in all the percentages. And the first couple of days, 2-3 days, it was taking me hours to do it because I didn't have a formula for it to find out the percentage. I was just starting out like a guesstimate, which is why I went to ChatGPT. I went to YouTube first to find out a formula. But like I said, artificial intelligence got the win on this one. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't help. But in this case, it did. So again, for this one, 401%. And then finally, this one equals 400 for profit divided by whatever the base price is, enter. So this one you have 20.05. So you would put in 201, right? Because basically it would be 200 for 200%. But then since you have all these extra numbers, you're just going to round it up 1 to 201. And that's what it would be. Okay. So before you put in tier 1, I would suggest just taking one product, right? And let's say you have the 6 tiers here. For that one product, that one format, whether it's 3.2, 1.1, or 3.1 panoramic, just practice on that one product and entering in the percentages for that one product correctly. Because that's what I did with the Fuji Crystal DP paper. I just focused on that one. I entered them all in on every tier on the website. And then I looked at all the pricing just to make sure that I did it right, because I still had 13 other products to implement the same formula on. And I wanted to make sure that it worked the way that I thought, right? And I did run into some mistakes, which I had to clear up. So I'm glad that I didn't do multiple products at first. So anyway, so that means that when you come here, just run through all the tiers, right? Run through all of them with your percentages. Make sure that they're all correct, and everything looks right. And then you'll start to notice a pattern that happens. So let's go with the 12 by 8, and let's do the rest of them, the rest of these, so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. All right, so with this one, tier 2, we want to make, for example, $300 divided by, here's your base price, enter, and you have 7.70, and again, you're going to round it up. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my calculator here to make sure I got this formula right. So for this one, I'm going to say 38 times 103% equals, yeah, and it's not right. It's saying 40. So I'm missing something. Hold on. I might have to add another number in there. I might have to. 2, 7. Hold on, I'm going to get this. $38.95 times 1026%. That's what it was. So I need to add more. Yeah, that's how you check your math. I have to check my math. So I'm going to need an extra number. So that's going to be 7. So yeah, what you will do to check your math is when you get your percentage, right, and you put your percentage here, like you rounded up 1, Then you would say, take your base price and multiply that by what this number is. And it should equal that number, your profit margin. So $38.95 times 1,027% should give you whatever your profit margin is, right? And then with tier 2, $38.95 times 771% should give you at least $400, right? So let's say that you have, I don't know if I can enter that here, equals, take your base price times that percentage equals, and that's what you're looking for. This number times this number, this percentage should equal your profit margin. And that's how it works. And obviously you can see it says 400 here. It matches your 400. If you put in a number that's lower, like let's just say you took the 1,026 and you just took the first four numbers, right? That's going to give you $3.99 and then like 63 cents if you round it up. That is below 400, which is why I brought this up to 7. I always round it up, and that'll give you 400. And that's how you can check your percentages to make sure your percentages are right. So again, I just missed a number here. Okay. And that's why you check your math. I'm glad I caught that. So now this one, same deal, checking my math, equals, here's the base price times the percentage. And there we go. It's 300. Right. So we had 770. We rounded up to 771. And that gives you just above your target for your profit margin. Okay. All right. So let's do tier 3. For this one, equals, okay, we want $100 for tier 3 divided by base price. And again, the base price can be anything, right? So equals, and you have 2.567, okay? So that would give me I'm going to round it up to 7. Instead of 256, I'm going to round it up to 257, just 1 point up, right? So then to check your math, you would say equals, here's your base price times, which is like the little asterisk symbol, the percentage, and there's your $100 right there. So again, what you're putting on the website is the 257%. And now you know for sure that's going to give you the $100 that you're looking for. So again, you're adding this number to the base price. So the customer is going to see about $140. Some web hosts will let you round the number up on e-commerce, but it doesn't make a difference. Like you can have $138.95 just as long as you cover the base price with your retail price. You have to cover the base price and cover your profit margin, right? So it's going to be $138.95. The $38 is going to pay for the print. The $100 is going to pay for your fee or your profit. So again, the customer is going to pay about $140, right? It covers the material. It covers your costs, or as far as your salary. And that's how you do it for everything. Doesn't matter the base price. It doesn't matter what your profit margin is. The formula is going to be the same. So let me go ahead and clear out all of this because it's kind of confusing. Sorry. So yeah, again, let me get on the right one. So I'm here. There's going to be 3 cells that you're going to use. You're always going to start on the middle cell. Equals, what's your profit margin that you want? In this case, it's $60, right? Divided by what is your base price? That's your base. Enter. And then it gives you 1.54 and then a bunch of numbers, which means that it's going to be 155%. And obviously Excel is picking up on the pattern that I'm using, so it's just going to automatically put your percentage in. So it's 155%. And then to check your math, you're going to say equals, this is your base price, times, this is your percentage, enter, $60.3725, right? As long as you go over this, right? Because again, if you put 154, it's going to fall below $60. So again, 155 gets you above $60. There you go. I'm going to move my freeze page or freeze frame. I'm going to move it to right here. That should work better. So freeze panes from right there. Now when I slide it, my price stays the same. Okay. Or my base price stays there. All right. So same deal. Here's tier 5. My profit is going to be $30. You know, what is this going to be? So equals profit $30 divided by, this is the base price, enter. And so you have 0.77 and a bunch of numbers. So what does that mean? That just means 77%. That's it. And I know it gets a little confusing, but that's why you always want to check your numbers. Okay. If it's over 100%, you're going to have 1 point something, 2 point something. If it's under 100%, you're going to have 0 point whatever the percentage is, right? So in this case, it's 77%, and then you round it up to 78 because you've got all these numbers back here, right? So again, check your math. You have equals, okay, base price times percentage, enter. And there's your $30. And like before, if you come up here and put 77%, it's going to fall below the $30 mark. Okay. Now, yes, this process takes a long time still, even with the formula, but it's so much faster. But it still takes a long time. But I did a little bit at a time with the products, and eventually it's done. It's done now, so I'm happy. With this one, I want the profit to be $10 on tier 6, which is not a lot, divided by the base price enter, and it's giving you 0.256, blah, blah, blah. All right, a bunch of numbers, which means that you've got 25%. Okay. And of course, you're going to round it up as always to 26%. Then check your math if you want to at this point. Equals your base price times the percentage. And there's your $10 right there. That matches up here. Okay. So this top line that's in bold, you always want to, I can't get it to move over. There it is. You always want that bold number in this to match when you check your numbers, right? To make sure it's correct. And again, on your website, these are your percentages that you're going to enter for that particular tier. So yeah, I've got a bunch of different prices for the 14 products. I just had to enter in all the prices. Again, on every spreadsheet, this is basically how it looks. Now, my prices are at the top are different in bold as far as my tiers because I don't want to go this high. But this works, for everything really. So I'm going to go through one more example. I'm just going to go through this line because this is a lot. $167.95 for the base price is a lot. So I'm going to show you how the numbers compare. But you notice up here with the $38.95 base price, $400, it's 1,027%. That's a lot. $300, it came down to 771%. For $100, it dropped to 257. So I'm saying if at any point as your profit margin gets lower, if this percentage doesn't go down consistently, you've done something wrong. Right? So, yeah, you've done something not right. So yeah, there we go. And then with tier 6, again, it's just the base price plus the $10. The customer is going to see about $50 for this particular product. That's what they're going to see. So when you have an order come in, you have to make sure, especially on the stuff that's low end like tier 6 and you're only getting $10, you have to make sure that your base price doesn't spike. And if it does spike, you have to make sure that you're still going to get your 26%, right? Because you want to make sure that you still get $10 from that tier 6 print. Okay. So I'm going to clean this up for us this time. So we're going to clean that up and we're just going to start with this one. And again, same thing, 3 rows or 3 cells, right? You start in the middle. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, you're always going to start in the middle. What you also can do is what I did is I just copy pasted this down and then plugged in different numbers because with the math and everything, I'm just saying like it just made it easier for me. But just to show you guys a little bit clearly, more clearly, equals, you want to make $400, but this time divided by, this is a larger base price, you end up with 2.381 and a whole bunch of numbers, right? So now up here, I think it's going to be 238 because see, this is 10. That's a lot. So this is basically 10.26, and then it came up to 1,027. When it's only one number before the decimal point, if I remember my math correctly, this is going to be 238. Okay. And then, of course, you're going to round it up 1 to 239, right? So now, again, I'm going to check my math. Okay. So equals, this is your base price times your percentage, and there's your $400. Okay. Now, yes, it says 401, but the problem is if you take this down to 238, you drop below 400. So it's up to you if you want to keep it at 238 or not. Me, no, because I want to know for sure, like, this is the number that I'm going to get. If it's a little bit above, okay, I'm fine with that. So again, it would be 239%. That's what you're going to put on the website. So now for this one, profit for tier 2. Make sure we can see this on the screen, right? Profit for tier 2, we want $300 divided by, and then the base price is a lot higher, but it doesn't make a difference. The formula is still the same. You've got 1.78, which is 178%. I don't know why it jumped off the screen. I'm sorry. But that's what it is. And of course, I'm going to round mine up to 79. So now check the price. We have base times the percentage, and there's your 300 right there to match this, your profit margin up here. Okay. And I'll go ahead and finish out before I jump to the last segment of this topic. Profit 100 divided by base, and I'm going to put 60% here and check my numbers. Base times percent, and there's $100. Once I got my head wrapped around what I was doing, it was easy after that. It was just understanding, okay, what this decimal means as a percent, you know. $60 profit divided by base equals, this is 0.357, which is going to be, I'm going to round up to 36%. I don't know why it's jumping all the way over there. It's just jumping. Checking my math. We got base price times percent. And there's a $60 that matches tier 4. 2 more and we're done. Oh boy. Okay, for tier 5, profit's $30 divided by, here's the base, 0.178, which I'm going to round up to 18%, and then equals base times percent, and there's the $30 right there. Now, if you guys want to color code this, To help you remember where everything is, I would probably say your base price, you can put it, I don't know, in green, some shade of green, you know. Your profit, I don't know, pick a shade that you want to put it under. The percentage that goes on the website, you can pick a different color for that. Orange, just so that you can keep things separated. If you're not comfortable with all these numbers. But yeah, so that can help. Last one, equals profit $10 divided by base price, and you've got 0.059, a whole bunch of numbers. This means a single percent. So instead of saying, this is basically 5%. So I'm going to round it up to 6%. That's really what it is. It's 6%. And again, checking my math, equals base price times percentage. And there's your $10 right there to match that up there. So yeah, we're almost about at the hour mark. I'm sorry if I, was too much math for this episode. But you can really do this for everything, like everything. And you can do this for everything. And like I said, if you want to color code the sales to be something so that you can keep track of where you are, by all means, go with that. But yeah, it's the same formula for everything. No matter the price, just follow that. You can rewind, play it back until you get the hang of it and start noticing the pattern. And as you can see here on tier 1, we started at 239%. And then the percentage just kept going down because your profit margin got lower until you got to 6%, which is the 0.059 there. The only tricky part, I would say, is if you have something like 10.26, something like this. Definitely check your percentages just to make sure you converted them from decimal to percentage correctly. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's a lifesaver because I have a lot of products. There might be more products that I would have to add on, but I definitely have to manage quite a few. And I wanted the pricing part of it to be as automated as possible. So this time, next quarter, I'm going to check the pricing again, the base prices of all the products that I have, and see if the base price went up, that the percentage keep up with it, because it's still going to be the same percentage. So I'm thinking that that's going to be automated. If the base price goes up and the price list is based on that percentage that I enter into the website, it's going to match that all the time, right? So prices can drop. The base price of the product can drop if material gets cheaper. Then the customer's price goes down. My profit margin stays the same. Prices go up, my profit margin goes the same. It's just the base price got larger or increased, and then the customer is going to end up having to pay a little bit more. But it's all ideally going to be automated. So once you put the percentage into the website, if the base price falls or rises, you don't have to do anything else to it, right? You don't have to micromanage it at all. It's just the initial time it's going to take you to implement the formula into all of the products, entering in the correct percentage for each product, right? And like I said, I started with the smallest one at 8x12, and the percentage stays the same throughout, right, for that particular product. So let me see if I can jump over here and show you guys the behind the scenes on my website. And that'll be the end of this episode. And I'm going to let everyone's brains recuperate. I'm going to let everyone's brains recuperate. Oh, it's stuck. My website's stuck. I'm trying to log in. And it's giving me a hard time. Can I reload? I'm not sure why it's stuck. I'll try it again. There we go. Groovy. Okay. Let me pull up the right template. And then I'll show you guys what I'm doing. Okay. All right. So let me show you guys what I'm doing. Here we go. All right. So with my website, it's a little bit more complicated than like if you go to a website like Society6, where they have you put in a percentage for your products. This one's a little bit more complicated, but the principle is still the same. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, this is the image price. Can I blow this up a little bit? I'll show you guys what I'm doing. All right. So this is the image price. I'm just putting this at 0, right? Because I'm not going to go by a set dollar amount. I'm just going to go by the percentage. So you can add an image price to what you already have on the percentage, but I'm not going to do that. And then these are cost of options. You can add a markup percentage to if the buyer wants to add frames or matting or something else. Like there's a bunch of different options, or a border onto the print. There's like different border sizes that they can add to the print. You can add a percentage on top of that, right? But I don't do that either. So basically I'm putting both of those at 0. So I'm coming here and it says percentage cost of print, right? So this is markup on print added to the base print cost. So again, I would come here And I would say, okay, let's just say, for example, this one that's 239%, right? This is where I'm going to put that, right? I'm going to put that here. So there's a 239, and I'm not going to add on any extra fees or anything like that. Now, you can either go all sizes or you can select a size. For me, I basically have everything's kind of set in terms of a formatting. So here's all your formatting options, right? The 1-1 is basically square, so I don't want that. The 5-4 is traditional, like your 8x10, 16x20, that's a 5-4 format. So the 5-4 format and the 4-3 format are pretty much the same, like 8x10, 16x20. I think, is it a 20x30 maybe? It's somewhere in there. But that's the format, like an 8x10, 16x20, that's the format. So I'm not going to have that. The 3x1 format, that's panoramic. I'm not going to have that included. 2x1, I'm not. That's kind of weird. But I'm not going to have that. 16x9, that's more like your phone. The format that fits your phone perfectly, like your iPhone or Galaxy for Android. That's pretty much the ratio for that. So I'm not going to have that. So I'm going to have the standard 8x12 3:2 format for my work. Now, how does that work? That means that I don't have any 6x4s available. I start at the 12x8 and it goes all the way up to 60x40 inch, right? So what does that mean in centimeters? In centimeters, that would be an 8x12 would be, or 12x8 is 30x20 in centimeters. And then the 60x40, the closest thing to that is a 150x100 centimeters. And that's all in the 3:2 format, right? So that's what I do on my website. Now, again, your web host for e-commerce can look totally different. But again, the principle is the same. So for this particular product, I pick out the format. If you want your print in a bunch of different sizes, like you really don't care about the formatting, like it can be 3:2, it can be square, it can be traditional, like an 8x10 instead of an 8x12. If you really don't care about that, you can just skip all of this and go all sizes, select all sizes. Like it really doesn't matter, just all sizes. That's really good for abstract work, especially. But for me, I don't want like if I have a 3:2 format, I don't want it cropped into a square. I just don't. I don't want it cropped at all. I don't want it cropped into a 4:3 or a 5:4 or a 16x9. I don't want it cropped. And especially because I have all of my prints are signed in the corner. So if it's a 3:2 and it gets cropped into a square, my signature is probably going to get cropped out of that print that the buyer purchases. So that's another reason why I'm ultra picky with that. But anyway, so you would add the product, and this is just one product, and all the prices are going to be there. Let me blow this up a little bit. So see, here's your 8x12. It fits under the 3:2 ratio. There's your ratio. This is a 16x9 ratio. Is a 12x7. Like, see, my 8x12 would get cropped if I had this available. So for me, if it's not available, this is left blank. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. Like the 4x4 is square. Like all this. This is a 2:1 ratio, so it's a 16x8. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm only getting prices for the 3:2 format. That's it. So I made sure I was specific about where I wanted the prices to go. Now, is this a perfect system on my web host? No, because sometimes it still puts it still puts a price on something I don't want it to put it on. So I think I can give you guys an example of that. All of these are 3:2, but some of these I don't think they're right. Like sometimes they'll combine two of them together. Like this one. This is a 3:2, but it's also a 4:3 and a 4:5, which I don't want. I just want the 3:2 format. So the 55 by 40 is actually going to crop out 5 inches of print. So like 2.5 inches on one side, 2.5 inches on the other side is going to get cropped off on mine. So I don't want that one. So I would have to come over to here all the way down, and I have to hit the X to turn that off because I don't want that. I don't want that available. What it's supposed to be a 60 by 40, not a 55 by 40. The 60 by 40 is just a 3:2 format. Okay. There's no cropping, right? So that perfectly fits my photography. Now, what format is your photographs? It depends on your camera. I would definitely say check it, because if you don't have a full frame sensor on your camera and your sensor on your camera is cropped, just make sure you have a 3:2 format. Sometimes you might have something that's like instead of an 8 by 12, which is 3:2, you might have an 8 by 10 sensor, format on your camera. So yeah, if you want all of your work to fit perfectly, just check check that to make sure. Okay. What do we have here? And then it keeps going to centimeters. See, all these are blank until we get to the 30 by 20. And the 30 by 20 is a 3:2 format. And so there's your price of what it would be. So once you put that percentage in, everything else fills out automatically, right? Yeah. And then if you want to see, well, for me, like if you want to see the base price, you would have to click this little button over here, and then the base price will show up. And always, this is the base price. Make sure your actual cost covers it, right? So that's why you put in the formula, you found out what the percentage needs to be, and then it just domino effects to everything, right? Even though we only looked at the 8 by 12s, it's a domino effect. It trickles on to all the larger sizes, right? So you don't have to find the percentage for every individual size for the same format. Like I said, I started with the 8 by 12, or if it's an 8 by 10 format, the 4:5, not the 4:5, the 5:4 format, or the 4:3 format, this one here, that's your 8 by 10s where you start, right? Just get the base price and find a percentage depending on what your profit margin is going to be. Same thing for your 1:1s, same thing we went over. But again, that's what I do. But the only thing I did was look for the 8 by 12. That was it. Is I decided, how much do I want this to be? How much do I want to make off of that? And then everything else just falls in line, right? So like we didn't check the 15 by 10 size, but the percentage is the same because it's based on this one. If you get to the larger sizes and you think it's too high, you can adjust your percentage. But for me, when I checked the larger sizes, everything was really fine. And I based it off of the old way I used to price things. I compared where the percentage fell and then made a judgment call of where I wanted the percentage to be. So yeah, you can look at your small prints, medium size, and your huge, large prints. Look at where you want the pricing to be and then start implementing that formula for finding the percentage and see what works best for you. But yeah, this is the Fuji crystal paper that I was telling you guys about. And yeah, and so now I'm going to delete this product because I don't need it. But for me, these are actually all of my tiers that I have. I used to have way more, and I have to go in, put in a percentage, and all of these have, most of them have like 14 different products in there. So it's just going to the tier, looking at all 14 products, putting in the percentage for each one, making sure there's no prints in there included that are going to be cropped as far as their formatting. And then I link the photograph to the profile, because these are all called pricing profiles. So you basically make a pricing profile of how much you want everything to cost. And then you say associate this pricing profile with your particular images. So like this one, I've got 7 on here. So everything under, these are everything that's under that tier. And these are the more expensive images on here. Now, if the price drops, then I can just move them to the next tier down. In rare cases, like especially if you work with a gallery and you have a piece that sells really well and you sell multiple prints of that, the price is going to go up. So it's going to go up 1 or 2 tiers. Especially if it's a limited edition and it starts to sell out pretty fast, the price is going to start going up because you're running out of prints available. But yeah, that's how everything works. You have to create a bunch of profiles, and then attach the right photographs or whatever your art medium is to that pricing profile. And if I start on a new profile, these are different printers that you can use through here. And then these are all the products that are available. So I have to go through all of these. Well, not all of them, but most of them. Because I think the ones at the bottom, like the canvas, I don't have those. But most of these I have available. So it took me a while. It took me a while to get there. So when you come to the actual website, and you click on something and then you hit product selection, then everything shows up with the pricing profile attached for that particular product. And of course you click on there and there's all the options, there's all the sizes. I have way more sizes than before because on the old pricing profiles, I didn't have some of these sizes included. But if it fit the 3-2 format or it fit the 1-1 format, I just added it on in. And then here's the types. Here's all the extra. Now, if you add on the extra border sizes, the price is going to go up. And then that's what it is. It's got the base price plus whatever my profit margin is. And then down here at the bottom, as I've shown before, I'm getting a lot of visitors from overseas or international. So I have other currencies down here to show what the prices are. But like I said before, instead of having to go up here and then pick a product to know what price range this piece is in, that's why I put one of the products down here, or the feature product down here, just to give visitors an idea of what price range this falls under. And the Fuji crystals, it's not cheap paper, it's a less expensive paper. It still looks great, but it's less like the German paper that's more like a cloth fabric. That's really expensive paper. And it's more absorbent with the ink. So yeah, it's more expensive. So I don't like the fabric or the cotton rag type paper. I like the Fuji crystal because the ink sits on top of the paper instead of being absorbed so much by it. So I really like the Fuji crystal, and I like the Ultra HD, which they cost about the same, but they're less expensive than the Hanamule paper. So yeah, that's what I put for the price range. And I guess as I've seen, like, people are not really looking, because I'm looking at the analytics and looking at what people are, they're checking the prices on. They're really not checking the prices on the Fuji crystal. They're going up one tier with the paper to the Ultra HD and looking at how much that is, right? So like I said, it's a little bit more expensive, but the Ultra HD is like this ultra high definition type paper, which is very pretty. It's really pretty. So that's a good upgrade, right? That's a good in between. I would say the Crystal DP, and then there's the Ultra HD, and then there's the German type, the Hanamule paper. It's like even above that in terms of just how much the paper costs. But yeah, that's really what I have for today. And again, you guys can go back to towards the middle of the video, and I'll probably try to put a marker or a timestamp in so that you guys can go back to the demo of how I went through all the percentages, how to make sure that your profit margin or your percentage is correct so that you get the correct profit margin. So I'll put a timestamp there because I didn't do this one correctly at first, so I have to get you guys to the right timestamp. And then, yeah, and just go from there. Just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And test out a few different things and see what you come up with in terms of base price plus whatever you want your profit to be. And I guess the last thing that I would have to put in is if you work with a gallery, they are going to take 50% of the cost, right? So working with the gallery, you're not going to get like tier one, which is why my tier ones are higher. It's not $400, but it's higher. The gallery is going to take 50%. So you have to think, if it's an 8x12, right? For example, and the cost is $38.95. The retail price is going to be $440, correct? At $440, the gallery is going to take 50% of the cost of the retail, which is $220, which means that you're going to have $220 left to cover the base price and have your profit, for yourself. So in this case, that's not going to be you're not going to make $400, especially with a gallery getting 50% commission, because you're basically paying for their network or their audience. And so if someone's walking through the gallery, they see your work and they ask you, why is your work so expensive? Half of it quite often is going towards the gallery, right? And if the gallery is international, you also have to consider customs fees, shipping fees, insurance, all of that when you're pricing your work, right? So when you come up with your retail is going to be $440. That's what your retail is going to be. So you have to make sure that you can pay the gallery, you can pay shipping, handling, insurance, you can cover the base price, and you can pay yourself with that final price. That's why the artwork in these galleries start going up, because the fees go up for the artist, right? Gallery commission, shipping and handling, insurance, customs fees if it's international, because when your work gets to a different country and has to go through customs, they charge you a fee for that. And depending on the size of the shipment, the weight, the fee can be pretty substantial. So you're going to have to take that into account as well. So when you're pricing your work, and especially if you're working with a gallery, make sure you consider the fees, and that whenever you come up with your retail price, everybody, including yourself, has to get paid, right? Because especially years ago when I first started doing this, the gallery would get their commission, customs fees, shipping, handling, insurance, the cost of the print, the base price, all of that. And then I barely had any profit for myself. And so I was like, oh, my price is going to have to go up, right? And then, of course, you know what happened, right? People start saying, Eric, Mr. Jackson, like, your prices are going up. Your prices went up. I'm like, yeah, because I have to make money, right? But then I started losing that particular audience. And they were like, okay, but that just means that I can't afford your work anymore. And so that's when I got into separating my work into all these tiers and saying, and bringing back a lot of older pieces that I wasn't really exhibiting in galleries anymore. Because in galleries, they will take maybe something that's 5 years old, and that's pushing it. I would say anything within the past 2-3 years they'll take. And then if it starts getting older than that, they want something that's current, you know. But that's probably as old as you can get with working with a gallery or working with a different platform. Is like anything within the last 2-3 years, you can exhibit that. But with everything else, you know, so if you've been photographing or creating work for 15 years, what happens to the rest of that work that wasn't done in the past 2-3 years? I started marketing that to everyone else, right? So the price came down, and that was something within their budget. So far, with my analytics, stuff on the lower end, that's like $40 profit margin, $20 profit margin. I'm not getting a lot of interest with those, oddly enough. I don't know if I can show you guys this. Everything has been towards like the mid tier to the top tier. I've been getting the most interest with that. So around tier 4 and up, sometimes tier 5, tier 6. But around tier 4 and up, it's so far getting the most interest, but I'll probably go through all of that in another episode, because there's a lot of interesting stuff. So that's a whole different thing. But if you guys have any questions about the Excel formula, or if you just want to make sure that you're entering everything correctly, or if something doesn't look right, all of that, leave me questions, or even comments, anything in the comment section below. And I try to keep up with answering, checking in on that and answering you guys' questions. So thank you guys for tuning in and sticking with me. And again, I'll probably leave a timestamp so that you guys can see just the meat and potatoes, exactly what you need to look at in terms of getting to the correct percentage. And yeah, that's all I have. So I see you guys next time. Take care.